On this episode of the Steadfast Athlete Podcast, I interviewed Brandon Kress, owner of SOMA Performance and Fitness, to talk about the importance of physical, mental, and spiritual discipline in your life. During my editing, he shared a message with me that he wanted me to share to start the podcast, and he heard this from his pastor. Peace is not the absence of chaos, it's the presence of God in the midst of it. Enjoy the podcast. This is episode 1 of the Steadfast Athlete, and I am your host, Will Smith. I'm sat across from a man whose purpose in life is helping others unlock their potential while pushing himself to maximize his own. This is Brandon Kress, the owner of SOMA Performance and Fitness.
Yes, sir.
And I met you, 10 years ago? Maybe more?
Maybe a little bit more, yeah.
Yeah. I met Brandon when I was training with, I guess you were just starting out, weren't you?
I was a couple years into the industry, but just starting out in ownership side of things, for sure.
But you had just, started out the ownership side, and you were just starting to rent space from the coach I was going to for the previous 8 years or so. And I guess we've known each other kind of on and off ever since.
Yep.
So
yeah, that was longer ago than I care to admit. It seems like yesterday, though. So
it does. It makes me think about like everything I was thinking of doing in life at the time, and so much has changed.
Yeah.
Because I was about to leave for college, I think, when we really got to know each other. So
yeah, it was interesting time in my life, just getting into the industry, and also just getting into an ownership kind of position in the sports performance fitness world. And Jim, who you were working with at the time, was such a blessing in terms of making that opportunity possible. Right, I knew the direction I wanted to go and how I wanted to go about things, and I was reaching out to places in the area, and I talked to him, and he was just so gracious and so welcoming, and really fit what I needed at the time. And I know for a fact I wouldn't even be here today if it wasn't for that. So
well, that's awesome.
It was cool to not just meet him, but also meet you and athletes like you who had been so positively impacted by what he was doing. It was an inspiration to me just starting out and kind of being able to look ahead to this is what this career provides in the future in terms of the relationships that you're able to build, how long some athletes will stay with you and train with you. And I've started to see that now, where I've worked with kids from 7th grade who are now graduated through college and have their own jobs and their own lives and families and all this other stuff. So
it's like exactly really cool. How I am with Jim. I was just talking to him the other day, and we've stayed. He worked with my brother before me, but we've stayed connected ever since.
Yeah, it's so cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. So you talk about that being part of the start as ownership. What got you into training in the first place?
Yeah, so when I went off to school out of high school, originally my plan was going to the military.
Okay.
I don't know why, but I just was like, I'm going to do that instead. I didn't really have any strong feelings of this is the type of career I want to get into or any of that. Well, I was fortunate enough to be asked to play basketball in college, and where I went to play was a branch school of the University of Connecticut, and you only played 2 years there because the only reason you would stay at that school for 4 years is if you did marine biology. That was the only 4-year track that they had. So I played 2 years there, and then I transferred up to the main campus. But before doing that, I reached back out to the recruiters because I was like, all right, I'm done playing basketball, I'll go do that now. And they told me, you already got some college credits, so stay in college, finish. That'll be better for you even if you do continue to decide to go into the military. So at that point, I was like, all right, if I'm going to finish school, what do I want to do? So that's where I really started to explore, all right, what opportunities do I have here that could provide me a potential career down the road that I would enjoy. So that's when I started looking at athletic training and physical therapy and strength and conditioning. And it ended up working out that I did the strength and conditioning route through their kinesiology program there, which is the strength and conditioning focus is really the one geared most toward athletes and training athletes, which I really liked. So by the time I had graduated, I met my now wife. So the military thing kind of faded away. And then I spent a few years I worked at a high school for a year and a half, and I also coached high school basketball for a little while. So I was working with the athletes at the school and with the team for free, essentially, but getting some reps under my belt. And I really started to enjoy the process of seeing athletes, getting results and getting stronger, and the confidence side, which is what I still talk about today, is by far, for me, the improvement that I love seeing the most is athletes who become more confident in themselves by seeing themselves get faster and stronger and more explosive and all that. So, that's kind of how I got started. We lived in Connecticut. We moved out here in 2014. I worked at a small sports performance studio for about a year and a half, and then pick up to where we started with meeting Jim, starting my own business, and him allowing me to rent his facility essentially and train my clients and build a business for all intents and purposes under his roof, right? Which again, I'm so thankful for. And then a couple years into that, I had a business partner. We linked up after the first year, and Jim ended up selling his business to us, and we took over. And there's some rocky roads throughout that process, not with the selling of the business, but after that, COVID hit, and all that stuff started happening. We were actually in such a good spot that in late 2019, early 2020, we were looking at bigger facilities to move into, because our lease was up in June of 2020. And so we were like pedal down. Like we had a spot specifically, I remember, that we were ready to put a deposit. We were ready to go. And again, this was early 2020, before everything happened. The landlord was just dragging his feet, and he started changing things. And we were like, this is weird, man. Like, we're agreeing to all the things we talked about already, and you're like switching things up. And it was just odd. So then the murmurings started happening about COVID, and we were like, okay, is this legit? Like, what's happening here? And by the time the landlord kind of came around, we started to pull back, because we were like, okay, we don't know what's going to happen with this COVID stuff. And we're about to hand you a lot of money to put a deposit down. We're going to have to build this place out. And we don't even know if gyms are going to be open 3 months from now, right? So we pulled out. COVID shut us down for 6 weeks, essentially. I think it was mid-March to May 1st. I think we were able to open back up on May 1st. So, we adapted like everyone else. We did online, we trained outside. Our clients were amazing and very understanding through the process. We were able to maintain a business. But the cloud that was still hanging over our head was, June, our lease is up. So what do we do? Well, to keep a long story short, when we opened back up, it was me, my business partner, and one other coach. Our coach that was working for us came to us and said, hey, I'm moving to Vegas this summer with my fiance. She's going to school out there. We knew that was a potential opportunity for her. And she was deciding between Boulder or Vegas. And she chose Vegas, which was kind of a bummer, but a blessing in disguise for us, because when we came back to opening up, we basically had 3 options. It's release this space, try to find another space as fast as we can, or close, right? So, when you're looking at those options and the closing option is one, you don't want to leave someone out to dry. So when he said he was leaving, I was like, okay, that kind of takes that responsibility off of our plate. Our landlord was not giving us any short-term options, because we were like, can we go month to month for 6 months until we can figure out what to do? And he didn't want to do it. He wanted long-term agreements only. So, we said, we're closing, shake hands. You take your clients, I'll take mine. Best of luck to you. And at that point, I moved my business into my garage. I started SOMA. So I have a 500 square foot garage. I put 1 rack in there, dumbbells 5 to 90, cable column, Woodway curve treadmill, and then I put 1,100 square feet of outdoor training turf in my backyard. And I just rocked away for 4 years. It was awesome.
Yeah,
it was
I remember seeing videos from there. I thought it looked really cool.
It was awesome.
And you made the place look a lot bigger than it was.
Yeah.
It's 500 square feet.
In my videos, I definitely tried to do that too. I tried to make sure the camera was like pushed up against the wall, like zoomed out.
Yeah. One of those realtor lenses.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so it was a lot of fun. And then, man, there's so many layers to this story. I feel like I'm just talking. But I got wind through one of my clients that my old business partner was shutting his business down.
Okay.
Which was weird because I was like, he's crushing it. Like, I know he's crushing it. He had a great space.
And this was the one I knew?
Yeah, Ed.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
So he had a great space. He had a couple coaches. I knew he had a good contract with the hockey club that we were working with before we closed down. And obviously I moved in my garage, so I wasn't trying to take on teams or anything like that. So he was able to maintain that, which was awesome. And so when I heard that, I was like, that can't be true.
Yeah.
So I just reached out to him. And he's like, yeah, man, let's grab a beer and let's talk about it type of thing. So I was able to catch up with him, and sure enough, he was moving on from the industry as a whole. He was shutting his business down and moving on. I say all that to say he had a coach working for him at the time. And I told him, I'm like, I'm pretty busy. I might be able to keep someone else busy, or at least give him a place to like train his clients until he could find somewhere else to go. So I had a coach come on in April of 23. And through the process of him coming on, we had a lot of conversations about like, is this something you want to do long term? Is this something you're just looking for a step until? So he took some time really reflecting on like, all right, is this the path I want to go down? Yeah. And when he said yes, once 2024 hit, I was like, all right, we need to start looking at a bigger space. So that's when we got into the space. Summer of 24, we got into the space we're in now. So about a year and a half in that space. So it's been kind of a wild ride, but lots of blessings. So many more details to that whole timeline. A business partner in LA for a little while. I was flying out to LA and just wild stuff. But very cool. God's hand was in every aspect. And that was probably for me, and that's why I love even just the name of this podcast with Steadfast in there, is when you see God working in things, you can have a peace about it that makes absolutely no sense with what's actually happening. Like if people are watching what's happening, they're like, dude, are you okay? And you're over there like, this is awesome. Like, it's great. Like we're cool. So I was able to really feel that through the process, even in closing down the business. I felt a lot of peace with that, in opening up in my garage and then seeing the response from the clients and how they were so accepting of this transition from, a 3,000 square foot facility to 500 square foot facility. Like that's a wild difference. So that's been really, really cool and something I've really tried not to take for granted in terms of how appreciative and grateful I am for that. So.
And now you have a cool home gym. Yeah. Now that you moved into a new facility.
I actually closed down the home gym.
Okay.
So when I was looking at spaces, I was like, all right, if the space is more than 10 minutes away, I'm keeping this gym, right? But my current gym is a mile from my house. Okay. So I was like, I can drive for 4 minutes. Gym, and now I have a garage again. Okay. So I don't have to wipe snow off my cars, which I love.
That's nice.
So having a garage has been great. And then, I just do the 4-minute drive to work. So.
Something I never appreciated growing up because once I got a car, I was the youngest in my family and everybody else had cars.
You were outside.
So I was like on the curb 2 blocks down,
Yeah.
No, we had front curb and everything. But when my wife and I bought our house, oh my goodness. Yeah. It saved so much time and energy in the mornings.
Sometimes I'm like, all right, all I got to do is shovel the path. We have a detached garage, so we have to get to it. But we have a little concrete kind of walkway to our garage. So I'm like, all right, that's all I got to shovel. Like, just drive out over it and it's good to go.
That's awesome.
So it is nice. I appreciate having a garage again. Even though the home gym was pretty sweet. But I kept the turf in the backyard.
It looked really cool. Okay.
So that's good. Yeah.
Well, you mentioned liking the name of the podcast, the Steadfast Athlete. That's something I wanted to address is, one, I call it the Steadfast Athlete. I think this is a podcast for everybody.
Sure.
Because I think everybody is an athlete to some degree, whether they want to be or not.
Sure.
It's just, are you an in-shape athlete or not?
Yeah.
But steadfast is really important to me. I say that at the end of every video or post. I'm always talking about steadfastness. And the other day, my young cousin texted me and said, "Hey, what does steadfast mean?" And I kind of had to think about it for a second. And actually, I kind of want to pull up the exact response I had because it felt like it would fit with this podcast really well. But I said, steadfast means unmoving or unwavering. It's often referred to in faith, but I like to think of steadfastness in physical, mental, and spiritual discipline to always keep improving towards the man God made you to be. And we had just had a conversation about faith right before that, so that's why he was asking me about it. But like I sent you a questionnaire coming into this, and we talked about, a lot of it talks about what physical, mental, and spiritual discipline mean.
Yeah.
It's clear to me that from all of that you have a pretty deep of all three of those disciplines. What does it mean to you when you talk about, or when we talk about steadfastness and spiritual discipline? Because I think you mentioned in here that spiritual discipline leads to mental discipline, which leads to physical, and that's something I love.
Yeah.
So what does spiritual discipline mean to you?
Yeah, no, that's awesome. To bring it kind of around to, I picked the name SOMA because it stands for Stay on Mission Always.
Awesome.
Right? So for me, no matter what your mission is in life, consistency is one of, if not the most important thing about any mission you're on, right? Now, obviously for me, SOMA has deep spiritual meaning as well, right? So I know in terms of, being a man of faith, there's a mission to my spiritual life and how I impact the world around me and others that I need to be consistent with, right? And I think steadfastness for me, especially in a spiritual sense, speaks a lot to those that consistency and those daily disciplines, right? And I would be lying and putting on a false face for sure if I was to say I've got these things figured out and I'm always like I'm right, like I'm not gonna sit here and be like, I'm diving into scripture an hour every day and I'm cross-referencing and right, like I'm not sitting here building sermons every day, right? But I think to set your mind on those things, right? I was just talking to somebody today about the power of visualization, right? And he's a physical therapist, but he was talking about some recent research that has come out and talked about how powerful visualizing is for everything and athletes as well. So keeping your mindset on things is huge. And I've noticed in my spiritual journey, the times where I struggle the most, right? Whether that's the areas of sin in my life that I struggle with, or connectedness with my wife or my family or these other things, when I'm allowing my mind to get away from the things of God, when I'm allowing my mind to go into a worldly state, right? And not just like it happens, right? Like those things happen, but almost like not fighting it.
Yeah.
Right? Like that's where I really start to notice like, oh man, I got to like get myself in check. And that's where those disciplines and that steadfastness really comes in. And I think steadfastness too, I'm just thinking about this now while I'm talking about it, but I think steadfastness comes down to also, when you're not as disciplined and when you're not as consistent, you stay the course, right? Like, you show up even if you don't want to. And this could obviously be applied to sport and training and stuff like that. But going to church, putting yourself around people of faith, even when you feel like you're like, dude, I'm the dark stain on the white shirt. Like I shouldn't be around anyone. No, that's when you need to be. And that speaks to that kind of steadfastness in your spiritual journey. And I think for me, that's what the standard I've tried to hold myself to. So, if I'm in a season of the valley or a season of struggle, It's don't get away from, don't pull back, right? Because that's when you're going to see the most damage to your spiritual journey, your relationship with God. And then as a result, your mental and your physical and kind of, trickles down from there. And the big thing for me too is, especially now being a dad, is my kids seeing that and realizing, they see me wake up early and go to the gym every day and do my devotion. They see me do that stuff, right? Which is huge. But also, if I'm having a tough time, how do I approach that?
Yeah.
If I'm struggling, what am I still consistently doing? What are my words, right? Those types of things. So I think in terms of spiritual steadfastness, it's a culmination of your daily, your consistent, but also these big picture, like just show up.
Yeah.
Even if it's not perfect, just show up, right?
Yeah. I mean, people talk about, I hear it all the time, it's kind of a cliche, but things are caught, not taught. And I mean, catching it is teaching it, right? So
Sure.
modeling for your kids is extremely important. And that, I think, I don't have any kids yet, but I do have a wife. And I think, to me, being married is one of the biggest ways to understand our relationship with God and God's relationship with us. I think that we're called to love our wives as Christ loves the church, right? And that's hard sometimes, right?
Sure.
Because I think my wife gets annoyed at me sometimes for how much I try to do this, but everything, if there's a problem, it's my fault. Like, no matter what, if it's something that I feel upset with her about, I try to look for what I could do differently, because I want to not be trying to have her make my life easier. I want it to make her life easier no matter what.
Sure.
And obviously give her room to improve and tell her the things I want to work on together. But
Sure.
But I think that's such a huge thing for me, is just I think spiritual discipline and the way that anyone who's married can understand that, loving your wife and your family, I think, is one of the strongest ways to feel how disciplined you are spiritually, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because I notice when I get away from that, that's one of the first things that starts suffering.
Sure.
Like, what am I?
Yeah.
Why are we arguing right now? There's nothing
my
even wrong.
My attitude has changed. My mood is different. Like, what's going on? Yeah.
Yeah. But you also talked about how it trickles down to mental and physical discipline. I really like thinking of physical discipline is in all things physical, mental discipline is in all things physical and mental, and spiritual is in all three.
Right.
And I think that's something you touched on in the questionnaire a little bit.
Yeah.
I guess, have you noticed that when, I mean, you just mentioned it, that when you get away from the spiritual discipline, you notice it taking away from the others?
Sure.
How important is that, like, in your marriage, but also in your business, and how you interact with your clients?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think, one of the things that I've always tried to live by is don't ask of others that which cannot be asked of you. So if I want other people to be consistent, if I want other people to give full effort when they're doing something, or if I want someone to work on improving, right? And again, some of this can be outside of training and athletes and clients and stuff, right? Like this could be in your relationship with your wife, right? Like you said, it's like, okay, it's not just me that needs to improve everything, right? Let's talk about how we can improve, or, lovingly talk about things that bother you from the other person, right? I can't expect them to, and feels a little bit like what you were kind of saying too, but I can't expect them to work on themselves if I'm not willing to work on myself.
Yeah.
So, for me, I feel like that goes through all those different layers, right? Of like, okay, my spiritual disciplines, and I want to have a business that may not be shouting Christ from the rooftops. Like when you walk in, you're not getting a track, right?
Yeah.
But I want people to feel that when they're in my facility, to know that like, oh, this is different, right?
Yeah.
These people act different. They treat people differently. I'm open and have faith-based conversations with clients all the time, right?
Awesome.
Like if I see a window of opportunity, or if I see, like, if I know, the kid goes to Mullen, right? Or Valor, or these, private faith-based schools, like, there's conversation that can be had there, right? Like, you have no idea where they're at in their faith, that you have no idea if they're only there because their parents wanted them to go there, right?
Yeah.
Or if it's an area of their life that they're really passionate about and they're trying to be their best, right? So, in my business, I really try to make sure that the floor is open when it comes to those things.
Yeah.
And I think my clients really feel that. And then, I think when it comes to the mental side and the physical side, right? I keep pretty disciplined routines when it comes to, how I approach my own training. And, I think the mental side, I think of scripture a lot in terms of like, and I can't quote the exact scriptures, but, capturing every thought. And your thoughts lead to your actions, right?
Yeah.
So I'll call people out if they're talking negative about themselves or if they're getting down, right?
Yeah.
Because that mental state is going to limit your physical state, right? If you always are beating yourself down, how are you going to build yourself up if you don't allow yourself, right? So that confidence piece, that mental piece is huge. And I really try, like I said, that to me is probably the most important improvement we can get for our clients is more confidence, right? Because I tell my athletes, I'm like, if I put two people side by side who have the same exact skill level and same exact physical capabilities, the person who's more confident will outperform the other person every single time. And it's not because they're better in any other way.
Yeah.
Every aspect of them is the same. They just believe in themselves more. They will outperform you every time. So if we can build that confidence, sometimes we'll see kids become more confident than their physical ability should allow for. And I love it, right? Because
it's incredible.
It's going to take them further if they have that higher level of self-belief.
Well, and it'll get there. It'll build their physical abilities a lot faster.
Yeah.
And that I think is a huge thing. And what you talked about with, like, you don't give everybody a track when they walk in the door. It seems like you just try to live your life in a way that, like, your life is evidence of God's love.
Sure.
And that's a really cool thing. I can see that just from, like, DMing you on Instagram or seeing your stories or any of that. But also I think confidence is something that is given to us from God. And if we, I think if we try to, what am I trying to say here? I think if we speak poorly about ourselves, it gives voice to that. And also it is dishonoring to God as well. Because I think if God made us to be a certain way, and we're speaking against that about ourselves, then how are we going to live to be who God made us to be?
Sure.
And this podcast has a lot to do with faith, but that's not like the only thing I want to talk about on this podcast, but it just comes out in everything because like we've talked about, spiritual discipline leads to the other two. Yeah. The other question I wanted to ask about the confidence side of things was your answer to the mental discipline question. What does it mean to you? You said the ability to push past mental barriers, distractions, and discouragements to stay on task with your goals. And I think that has so much to do with the confidence thing. There's a guy who I follow, Ed Milet. I don't know if you've ever heard his podcast.
No.
I got to see him live, and it was really cool. And one of the things that he says that sticks with me the most is that self-confidence is your ability to keep promises you make to yourself. And I think that goes hand in hand with what you said mental discipline means to you. I guess, what do you, I guess, what do you do for your own mental confidence and your own mental discipline? And how does that lead to how you help your clients with it also?
Sure, yeah.
And your family.
Yeah. Yeah. I want to say this quote that I heard a pastor say recently that will stick with me forever. He said, I can tell, I don't want to misquote it. I'm kind of paraphrasing, but
Okay.
I could tell you the measure of a man by what it takes to discourage and distract him. Right? So that mental side of like, and I think about this a lot. I'm like, okay, what am I allowing to distract me? What am I allowing to discourage me? Does it take a lot or does it take a little? And then being able to say like, what do I want the measure of me to be, right? I don't want people to think, and I shouldn't say it in terms of like, I'm worried about what other people are thinking, maybe more what I think about myself, but I definitely don't want it to be something where it's easy to discourage me or easy to distract me. And, you know, on that mental side of things, you know, I would say for myself, you know, I do a lot of listening to books and audios. I utilize that in a lot of ways to push me past small thinking, mental barriers, right? You know, I think, you know, one of the things I've heard a lot through the different authors and books that I've read is, you know, you can basically take the average of the 5 people that you spend the most time with, and that's where you're going to be.
Yeah.
Financially, mentally, physically, right? Like who you spend the most time with is who you become, essentially. You know, so for me, I'm always trying to look for like, how can I immerse myself in big thinkers and people who've done things that I want to do, to get me to a place mentally where I can push myself, right? Because it's not always possible in my everyday life, right? I spend a lot of time at work. I don't spend a lot of time in the networking environment or spending time in mastermind groups, things that I think are great. And I'm like, where do I find the time for this? And where do I find these people, right? So, you know, I know that if I'm not able to do those things specifically, at any given time, it's where can I find resources that will help me push, right? So sometimes these audios are faith-based, sometimes they're finance-based, sometimes they're investment-based. Like it all just depends on kind of where I'm at, what I'm trying to really get myself into the mindset for. And when it comes to, you know, trying to influence the people around me, it's utilizing those tools, those things that I've been given from other people to basically instill in others. So I'll pull out quotes that I've heard that I like, that I think are good nuggets to just, again, that quote that pastor said will stick with me forever. If I can get some of that into people's mindsets where they start to like check themselves of like, oh, like we were talking about before, like don't talk down about yourself, right? You're fighting an uphill battle.
And that's a hard thing to remember.
You're fighting an uphill battle, but you're also the person pushing yourself back down the hill. Like it's going to take a long time to get up there if you keep kicking yourself down the hill. It's hard enough with nobody kicking you down the hill, right? But when you're the person doing it, there's a quote from Andy Mineo, you know, Christian rap artist, where he said, I'm my own worst enemy and even I can't stop me, right? And I love that because it's like, I can't even stop me because I'm not going to sit here and listen to that chatter, right? And you definitely can't stop me if I can't stop myself, right? Which I think is huge, right? So, I think a lot of reps, like when we think, I think about a lot of things in the context of training, right? And I know even a mediocre training program can get you results if you're consistent, right? It's about getting reps. Right now, being on a really good training program is a lot better. But if you're, affirmations are a big thing people talk about. I can't say I sit here and do affirmations out loud to myself in the mirror a whole lot. I've done them. I do a lot of them in my mind silently, but being consistent, talking consistently about what you want right? Where you want your headspace to be.
Yeah.
Kind of speaking your future self into existence, I think goes a long way too. So the biggest thing though is, even if it's not perfect, just do it.
Yeah.
Just be consistent with it.
That's
and then
great.
That will start to take shape over time in ways that you probably don't feel in the moment. But, a few months later, you might find yourself being harder to distract and harder to discourage, which I think if you can get those two things in check, you're on the right path to kind of do whatever you want in life, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you talked about the quote of the 5 people you spend most time with or you can measure who you're going to be based on those 5 people.
Yeah.
I think that what you said about resources and what you listen to while you're driving or, setting up the gym for the day or whatever, I think that's something that a lot of people can take away from this, is that it's really easy to hear that and think, okay, but I can't go find a room of billionaires and,
Right.
But you can find a lot of really experienced and wealthy and happy and whatever you're looking for people online, and the resources can be the people you spend the most time with. And I think that's a really important point of what you just said. The other thing I wanted to respond to was actually, I wanted to pick your brain about the quote from the pastor. Can you say that quote again?
Yeah, it was, I could tell you. Yeah, he said, I could tell the measure of a man by what it takes to discourage or distract him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's great.
I love it.
And you shared a story with me over text the other day. I had my phone reading it to me while I was in the car, and I was just getting pumped talking about it and hearing about it. I think the story you talked about could have discouraged you so many times in there.
Sure.
And I was wondering if you could share that story. And because that goes with mental, physical, spiritual discipline, all 3.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'll definitely say this was an experience that I struggled with some of those things throughout, right? But I'll bring it kind of full circle, and I'll kind of start from the beginning. I heard that quote during this time.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, so that was kind of huge too. So after we moved out of the garage, we moved into this training space that we're in now. So when you get into a commercial lease, there are things you can try to do in the beginning to kind of push back some of the costs a little bit. So we had 5-month abated rent. So basically we just paid the triple net fees for the space every month for the first 5 months, and then the rent kicked in after that. So we got a good period of time where cost was really manageable and pretty low, because going from almost no overhead in my garage to a commercial real estate space, our overhead was going up quite a bit. But I felt like the finances supported it for the most part. And I knew that getting into a new space, there was a little bit of a leap of faith in terms of like, but more business will come when we have a bigger space that we can market more and do that type of stuff. Which is
one of the scariest things to do as an entrepreneur.
It is. It is. And I will say that's probably one of the areas, that I've felt very confident in over time is I take action, which I think a lot of people don't do, and I'm not trying to boost myself up, but I think that's one of the things that holds people back the most is just moving in the direction you want to go.
Yeah.
So
if it's wrong, you'll find out faster than if you just sit there. Right?
Sure. Yeah. And there's no doubt that you can get yourself into a world of trouble if you make really bad decisions. Like, I get that. But there's a lot to be said about, and I will always say it in the form of faith, right? God is going to reward people who are moving in the direction of the way that they want to go, and not want in terms of like their own personal, like if it's illegal or something, right? Like I'm not saying anything like that, but I knew we were in a position where it was like, all right, I want to get into a bigger space to help give this business an opportunity to grow bigger than where we are at right now. So I started looking at commercial real estate. I talked to a commercial real estate agent, right? Doing all of these things to take action to move in that direction. And then I watched how things started to happen, and I look for God in those things, right? If I feel like I don't see that, it doesn't feel right, I pull myself back. I have to check myself because I like to take action.
Yeah.
So like I see things and I'm like, it looks good to me. Okay, I'm going to just go.
Yeah.
And I can skip over sometimes, really sitting in that space of like, all right, does this feel like something that God is doing? So in that process, I really felt like, all right, things are happening in a way that seems and feels like how God would move me.
Yeah.
So that's when we found this space. We were able to negotiate some things. We were able to get in, and I had a lot of confidence with like, okay, if God is behind this, there's nothing that can stop this thing from working. If this is His plan. So in November of 24, that's when like the full weight of the rent kicked in and all that. So those things hit, and it was like, all right, things are a little bit tight, but we're okay. I brought on a third coach at the end of December of 24, like very last, almost like the last day of December. It's pretty much January 1st. Because we were pretty busy, and it was one of those where it was like, all right, I think if we have a third coach, we can better handle what we have, but also handle the growth that we're kind of pushing towards, because we were seeing increases in revenue and clientele and all that. Well, here's where the story really begins. So 2025, January, we hit a dead even, no break even month, essentially, which happens sometimes.
And this was after you started, the rent kicked in and everything?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, so we hit dead even. And then I projected out February, which I always do at the end of a month and the beginning of the next. I'm like, all right, how does this month look revenue-wise? And I was like, we're going to be really short this month. Like, this is kind of like I had enough in reserve to be like, sometimes we have low months and then we bounce back.
Yeah.
So one of the things I did in February that I've never done in the past is I looked into paid advertising, hiring a company to run ads on social media to try to bring in a more consistent lead flow. I mean, this is a very common business practice, right? So I was like, all right, I haven't done this. It's been mainly word of mouth, organic. We go to events, reach out to coaches, that type of stuff. So I brought in this company that was running a deal, and it's a company that I had heard of before. So I was like, all right, the price is right. It's a reputable company. So I talked to the guy, and we're like, yeah, let's do it. So we get a couple months into that. We worked out some kinks, and we still weren't in the positive. Like we were still floating below positive on the investment as a whole.
The reserves are starting to dwindle a little bit.
And then, February was a short month. March was shaping up to be a short month, which I was like, okay, 2 in a row is not super common. Usually it's like, all right, we might hit a little low month, and then we get this kind of recoil effect and it all evens out or makes up for it, right? So I'm also looking at the numbers compared to the year before, and I'm looking at 45% increase in revenue. That's great.
Yeah.
Like this is all, like nobody would complain about this, but with the new coach, the new ad agency, and the rent, it's like, okay.
More than 45% more overhead.
It's more than what we're bringing in. So I'm like, all right, let's battle the storm a little bit. Now, I'll be honest, during this time, I'm kind of just in the thick of it, right? I'm distracting myself with my business, and this would be me distracting away from my more spiritual approach, my disciplines when it comes to my faith.
Starting to trust in yourself a little bit more, or
and maybe not as much just trust in myself, but just face the things that are in front of me without just getting away from my disciplines, my consistency of staying close to God, whether that's through my daily devotionals and my prayer life and things like that, and just kind of getting distracted with the busyness of what we're doing, right? And managing a facility with 3 coaches and a new ad thing that now I'm like, usually these things need to run without me having to do a whole lot. And I feel like I'm doing a lot. So, where I felt like there should be less time spent, there was more time spent. So anyways, to really kind of, push the story along, we hit several short months in a row leading into the summer. Now, usually the summer is like, it explodes. Like, kids are off school business is great.
Trying to
Everyone's
get ready
happy
for the next year.
Yeah, it's almost like how do we even handle the summer because it can get so busy. And it was fairly busy, but still seeing short months. And now I was getting at the point where I was like, all right, reserves are getting low. We've hit too many short months in a row.
Yeah.
And I'm feeling it. Like I'm feeling the heat of like this almost like discouraged phase of like, I feel like I'm doing everything right, but if we keep going into the negative, like we're not going to make it out of this year. Like this is the path that we're on is going to put us in a really tough spot. Now, I had just signed a 7-year lease on this space the year before. There's a lot that you get tied into during that process that would put my family in a really hard spot financially. So
be moving out of your house and into the gym or something.
No, seriously, I'm like, what does this really look like if we go under? Like, I don't know what that would happen. So this is in the summer. So then I start getting on my knees. And now we never want to feel like, oh, I'm only coming to God when I'm like in the trenches, right?
Yeah.
But if I'm in the trenches, I got to, right? Like, so, you know,
sometimes he lets us get there so we have no other choice,
well,
I think.
You know what? And I think of that song and I can't remember who sings it, but he says, rock bottom is a firm foundation, right? And it's this concept of like, you hit rock bottom, but when you're like on your knees, like, yeah, this sucks, but I'm on the rock, right? So I think of that a lot. Like rock bottom is a firm foundation of like, sometimes you got to be there to get to where you need to go. And that a lot of times is just turn your eyes back toward the one who's like standing there, like, I'm here. I'm just waiting for you. Like, get out of your own way. Ready to help, you know, type of a thing. So I feel like there's so many layers to this story, and I want to hit the important parts and not talk for 2 hours about it. But, you know, as the summer went on, I started to feel like, okay, where can I cut costs to help right the ship? You know, and one of them was the new coach that I had brought on, because he was on a base salary plus commissions. So he was guaranteed money. Whether he was working or not, which it was never a question of him working. So, you know, I started to look at that and I was like, is that something I have to start really thinking about? And that's where I was praying about those things. And I was like, all right, God, I need this to be, like, I don't want to be a neon sign guy. Like, I want to trust when I feel you move, but I don't want to put someone else in a really bad spot if I'm hearing this wrong. So like, help me understand. So I started having conversations with the other coach that had been with me for a while and just kind of told him where my head space was at and asked him, like, how do you feel? Like, do you feel like he's where he needs to be? Do you feel like letting go of him would be a good choice or not? And, you know, he's not on the business side. He's not on the finance side. So he's like, you know, for all intents and purposes, I think, you know, he'd be good to keep on. I'm like, all right. So then it got really hard too, because I know if I let go of this guy, it's going to put more pressure on both of us. And if he was like, I was hoping you would keep him on, he might get a little bitter that I let this other guy go. So I did a prayer. I said a prayer that I always say when there's a big decision and it impacts more people than me. I said, God, if I need to let this guy go, I need you to show the other coach. And I need him to see it too, and him to be kind of on board. So,
because it's not just going to impact the other coach or you, it's going to impact everybody.
So it was a Friday, and this, I'm trying not to use names, so I'm just going to say this coach or that coach, essentially. But the coach that I was thinking about potentially letting go had to go to an off-site training. And then he was done for the day. So I remember when he was leaving, I was like, hey, are you coming back afterwards, or you're probably just going right home? He's like, oh, I think I might come back. And I was like, oh, okay. Like, I wouldn't. I would just go home, but that's fine. And then while he was gone, I was talking to the other coach again. And somehow it came up that we were talking about some of the programming that this other coach was doing. And so we brought it up and we were talking through it, and it was like, this is not what we would have expected this far in to this coach being here. Like the level, the product should be a little bit more aligned with what we normally see, and also it just didn't seem quite right. So we started to dive into that a little bit more, and the coach who'd been with me for a while slowly was starting to be like, oh yeah, actually. And I just flat out, I was like, do you feel like this is a product, if you were in my seat, a product that you would want to see our clients experiencing out on the floor? And he was kind of like, no, not really. I was like, okay. And it was in that moment that I realized, like, oh, this was it. This is what I needed.
Yeah.
He saw it. He needed it to be from the coaching side, not from the finance side, from the client experience side.
Yeah.
And I told him, I said, listen, dude, this is confirmation for me, and this is why. Mm-hmm. And he's someone who has attended church. I wouldn't say he's very outspoken about faith or anything like that, and I don't really know where he's at with his relationship with God. But I was very open with, like, this is what I've been praying, and this was why this was a confirmation for me. And he was like, well, are you going to do it today? And I was like, I don't know. I wasn't going to until this conversation where I was like, yeah, this is God confirming this for me. So I said, I think he's coming back later. Like, I don't know why. But when I was talking to him, he said he might come back. And he goes, yeah, it was actually really weird when he was leaving. I said, this is the other coach saying, oh, you're probably just going home after this, right? He's like, no, I think I'm going to come back. I think Brandon wanted to talk to me or something. And I was like, I said nothing to
crazy,
him. Yeah, I said nothing to him that would have indicated in any way that I needed to talk to him about something. But now, I think I do.
Yeah.
So,
you do need to.
So that was a very wild experience through this, which was really hard because this is this person's livelihood. They woke up this morning with a job and they're going to go home tonight without one. Yeah. That's super, super hard as a business owner, and it just rips my heart out. But
it's the worst part of owning a business.
It is the worst part. And it's a good person, and it's not like they did some misconduct or like did something like that was illegal, right? Like none of those things happened. But I had such a peace about it that I knew this is exactly what I needed to do. And so that night I let him go. Anyways, to move the story along, that's where we started to see things start to level out a little bit. I was going back and forth with letting go of the ad agency that I was with at that time as well, because that was a big cost, and it was still not in the positives, unfortunately. So that could have been a big kind of reset as well. So the coach who had been with me for 2.5 years at that point was getting married at the beginning of October. So I let go of this other coach at the end of August. So we had September, transitioned into the school year. Things were wild, 2 people doing the job of 3, but we were managing it. The beginning of October, the coach that was with me was getting married. He was taking a week off for his honeymoon. So that was brutal because I was by myself.
Doing now the job of 3 coaches as one.
3 coaches as one. That was brutal. But he came back, and then about a week later, might have been 2 weeks. The timeline's a little fuzzy for me. But he gave me 3 weeks notice that he was going to be leaving.
Wow.
This is like a bomb dropping. And I was like, what? Like, this is wild. But what I told him that day, which is 100% true, when I was going through, like, do I let go of the ad agency? What do I need to be evaluating, essentially? Yeah. There was a small part in my brain that was like, would I ever have to let this other guy go? Like, I don't think so. Yeah. Like, the goal would be no, for sure.
For your sake and the business's and his sake. Yeah.
But I also held with open hands. I was like, Lord, if that's even a possibility, I need you to start working on my heart, because I don't see that at all. Like, that is not something that I'm even considering, right? Yeah. And I had this little thought pop into my head multiple times over the course of that couple weeks that was just like, he's leaving. And I was like, it was like, you know how sometimes you hear little things, but nothing ever happens with it? Mm-hmm. So you can't believe everything that pops in your head.
Yeah.
But it happened multiple times. And I think it was just God preparing my heart for something that he obviously knew was coming, that I wasn't going to do on my own. Like, I wasn't going to let him go. So when he told me, I told him that. I was like, honestly, it sucks, but I feel like I was prepared for this, as little as I feel like I could have been.
Yeah.
You know? So with that, I had that peace again of like, this is part of the pruning process of all of this.
Yeah.
Because throughout this year, I felt like God has really been working on my clarity for my business. And it goes back to what we were talking about earlier, where I got so caught up in, how do I build this business? How do I grow this thing to a place where I can have multiple locations and I can manage a team and I can create systems and protocols and all this. And I got away from the impact. What is the impact I want this business to have on the people that walk through this door? And a lot of that for me is I want them to feel like this is a place where they can have coaches who are mentors, coaches who are pouring into them positively, coaches who are having a positive impact on their life so that they can go out and be more confident, not just on the field, but in life in general. Yeah. Where, like you said, you reached out to this guy recently that you trained with for a number of years. I want to have an environment where that happens, and not forced, but like we're building such strong relationships with people that's how it happens for the long run, right?
Yeah.
So God started putting this clarity back into my mind of like, turn the business back over to me, almost. Like you're trying to do a lot of things yourself, even to the ads. I was like, I'm going to shut off ads, and it's like, how? Like, God, I need leads to come through if I'm going to support these other coaches. When I turned off those ads, which I didn't even mention, I did end up doing that. I was getting organic leads within days. Almost out of just falling out of the sky.
Is it like word of mouth or just?
Yeah, like, oh, I heard about you through this, or oh, I Googled you, or Googled this and I found you guys. Like, wild.
Yeah.
And another way, so to pick the story back up, so this coach gives me notice, and I know we've only got a few more minutes, but this coach gives me notice that he's leaving, and I'm like, okay, God, what do I do? I have this piece of like, this is part of the process that's supposed to be happening. I don't want to put a job post out on LinkedIn or Indeed or anything because I'm going to have to rifle through 100 resumes and the interview processes are brutal. You got to call these references. Yeah. I really felt like God was like, you need to find a referral. So I started reaching out to people I knew in the area, coaches. I reached out. This is when I reached out to you. Like, hey, do you know any coaches? Right? Like,
Sorry, I didn't know anyone, by the way.
No, it's totally fine. It brought us to this moment, right? Which I think is really cool, and a byproduct of the process too, which is so cool because God works in multiple things at one time.
Oh yeah.
Right? You're focusing on this, but this is also happening. Yeah. Right? And it's about that action, right, of moving in the right direction.
Yeah.
So side story. I think you connected me with one person, but I also was like, oh, I know he's been doing like podcasts and he's growing his following and his brand. And this year I've been more active with trying to get on podcasts and stuff like that. So it's just action. It's just, hey, I know you have like a podcast. I mean, if you're looking for guests, I would love to. It's just saying those things out loud and then they turn into this sometimes, right? Yeah. So,
and you helped me get this off the ground because I was kind of dragging my feet.
No way,
bit. Yeah.
Which is awesome.
Yeah.
Right? It's so cool how those things can happen. And so through that process of me trying to find a referral, I'm reaching out to coaches, I'm reaching out to other people I know in the area that may know performance coaches that are either looking to get started or looking for a switch from where they're at. So, and I was looking for a faith-based coach too. I was like, all right, if I need to focus in this area, God, like bring me the right person.
Yeah.
So I'm doing all this legwork, and this guy sends me a message through my website on a Saturday or a Sunday and says, hey, I used to be a coach at D1. They closed. I got a job at this school as like their PE coach or whatever. But I do have some active clients that I want to train on Saturdays, and I'm just looking for a place to rent on Saturdays. And I was like, oh, Saturdays are kind of dead in our gym. It doesn't really fill my need right now, but I'm not going to turn away an opportunity.
Yeah.
So I got on the phone with that guy. We talked about details, and we were like, all right, come by, check the place out. And long story short, we ended up making an agreement, and he's coming in to rent on Saturdays. Great. But through that process, I said, hey, this is what I'm looking for. Like, I got full-time work right away. So if you know anyone else looking maybe for an opportunity, I would love to be connected. He's like, oh, I got a few people in mind. Let me reach out. So he reached out to a few people, and then so this was a Monday morning. I remember asking God, I was like, God, again, I don't want to be a neon sign guy, but I need something today to know that I'm not just being lazy. Like, do I need to put a job post out? Like, what do I need to do?
Yeah.
I feel like I need to get a referral. So I'm trying to do that, but it's just not going anywhere. I need just something today. So I get an email from this guy that says, hey, one of the people got back to me and said they would like to talk to you. I'm like, that's what I needed. Cool. So I reach out to this guy, gets back to me within a couple days, ends up being kind of like, hey, I'm probably just part-time work right now looking for, I do have another job that I enjoy, and I'm planning on staying there. I'm like, all right, that could be better than nothing. Part-time's cool. That could work. So we ended up meeting a couple times. I told him about, what a full-time opportunity would look like, but also maybe what we could look at part-time. Within a day or two, he reached back out. He's like, hey, I want to talk about what the next steps would be, and then also, like, I think I would rather do the full-time gig. Yeah. It's going to be better money. It's going to be more consistent, all that stuff. And I was like, okay, cool. Like,
that fills the full need.
Yeah. And I was like, Lord, it feels like you know how sometimes we're like, there's too many options. Just give me one. This was like, here's your one option because you're an idiot and you're going to do stupid things. And here's your option. And you know what? I probably skipped some parts of the hiring process and interview process because I just felt like God was like, do it. This is your guy. I get reminded of this story a lot where the person's drowning and they're praying and calling out to God, save me, save me, save me. And this boat comes over and is like, hey man, do you need help? He's like, God's going to save me. Don't worry about me. God's going to save me. And the boat is like, okay. And another boat comes by and is like, dude, what's going on? Do you need help? And he's like, no, God's going to protect me. God's going to save me. I'm okay. And they're like, okay. And they leave. And then the guy dies and goes to heaven and is like, God, why didn't you save me? He's like, I sent you 2 ships. Like, what else do you want me? So I think about that a lot where it's like, God's like, what else do you want me to do? Here's your answer, right?
Oh, yeah.
So I ended up bringing this guy on. I've gotten tremendous feedback from our clients. He has been a wonderful fit, and it's almost felt like too easy in a way. But credit that all to God through the process. So all that to say, the last few months have been on the right side of the numbers, and we're trending very heavily in the right direction. And I know it's been based on getting out of my own way, leaning into God heavily, and being steadfast through the pruning process, which is really hard, and keeping those little nuggets that God's placed in my mind from other people. The measure of a man is what distracts him, how easily he's distracted or discouraged, right? And I'm like, I need to get for my family, for my business, for myself. And I'm not gonna lie, I've hit probably some of my biggest lows this year mentally. And I'm usually the type of guy that's like, I'm not gonna get derailed by this. And I think that was part of the process too. God really helping me understand, like, you're gonna only be so strong by yourself, right? Like, I've got you. Like, give me your burdens, right? You take mine and I'll take yours. Trust me, it's gonna be better that way, right? And I think I get in the mindset of like, I'm just a doer, like just action, take action. I'm a type A. I'm just like, if something needs to happen, I'm just gonna do it myself. And there's strengths in that, but there's a lot of weaknesses in that too. And it can get in the way of your relationship with God and your dependence on God. And I've experienced that. I got to get beat over the head a couple times to get the message through. So it's been a wild year. It's been a year that I didn't expect. But I think the future is better for it. Even though when you're in it, it's like, this sucks.
Yeah, I mean, that seems like one of my favorite Bible verses is James 1:2-4.
Sure.
Yeah. Consider it pure joy, my brothers and sisters, whenever you face trials of many kinds. For you know that the testing of your faith produces perseverance.
Yep.
Let perseverance finish its work so that you may be mature and complete, not lacking anything.
Yep.
And I think that's the NIV version of it.
Sure.
But that seems like the perfect summation of that for your year. Because there were so many small trials that added up to be big ones.
Yeah.
Then, like, you're wondering, am I going to have a place for my family to sleep at night? Is the gym going to be that place for me for a little bit? Since I just signed this lease, am I going to have to let go of these people? Oh, actually, this guy's going to leave. It's like, I think that's a testament to you do take action aggressively, and I think that's a really good thing, but it's also a testament to trusting God and knowing that He will make the path straight for you. Because if you just followed the wind every time it blew like that this year, you would have been all over the place. And your focus on, yes, this is my goal for the business, but even deeper than that, your focus on trying to glorify God with it. I think that's the only way that it survived throughout the year. And that's a really cool story.
Yeah. And I will say this, to bring it full circle to parts of our conversation from earlier about still doing the things, still going to church, still getting into the Word, right? Through that process, I mean, this was the quintessential, like, every message every week was like getting me through the week. It was like, this is exactly what I needed to hear.
So when you go to church
on this day,
like He's only talking to you.
Yeah. And God called me out onto the water with some things, faith-based through this as well. Like finance-wise, tithing-wise, right? Pushing me to get more. Like, when you are struggling financially and God asks you to give more, it's the most counterintuitive thing that I think a human being can do.
Yeah.
Right? And he called me out onto the water with that this year too. And I'll be honest, it's still hard every month with where I feel like He's placed these things on my heart. It reminds me of the story of, a very well-known tithing story of, the wealthy people are giving, 10%, which is a lot, and the lady who gives 2 coins, and Jesus says, she gave the most out of everyone. And they're like, she gave 2 coins. He was like, but that was everything she had. Yeah. I think of that a lot, and it's like, God loves a cheerful giver, and I'm trying to be cheerful. Yeah. But it's hard, right? And I think that's speaks to the steadfastness and speaks to the faith and the trust, and even when it's hard, even when it's the complete opposite of what you want to do, trusting that God's. And I think that was part of it. God laid the foundation with giving me these signs and confirming these things to show me this is me. Yeah. And so when I ask you to do something that's hard, this is me. Yeah. And when I show you on the other end that it's going to be better for it, it's me, right? And it's like, okay, this is tough, but okay. Yeah. So,
well, I guess probably should finish it after this, but
sure.
That I just wanted you to know you're speaking straight to me with that, because I'm in a time in my life. We bought a house a year ago, and we've made some leaps that we were living in an apartment, and our dog was living with Chloe's dad because we didn't want to stress him out at the apartment. He gets stressed easily. And we decided that it was best for our family to buy a house, but that was going to put us pretty tight budget-wise.
Wow.
And since then, I don't think I've been the best steward of the money that God has provided our family. And for the first time since Chloe and I got married, I didn't tithe for a few months in a row now. And I've been struggling with that, like spiritually, just praying about it, because I don't feel right with that. But I've been like, I don't know what to do. And I think that's something a lot of people can learn from, is, and especially me, right in this season of my life, you're talking to me. And I think a lot of people think that life is supposed to be easy, and it's not.
Right.
It's not.
Yeah.
And God He allows us to get into hard times and difficult things and rock bottom where the foundation is firm, right?
Sure.
Because sometimes we take our eyes off of Him. And I think right now, Chloe and I were talking about it 2 days ago. She was like, I think I want to get back into tithing. I think God's been talking to me about that.
That's awesome.
And that was speaking straight to me, because that was from what she brings in, that she was saying that.
Sure.
And she was saying, basically, I trust you with our finances as the leader of our house, and I haven't been a good steward of that. So that's just really interesting, because I do want to be a cheerful giver, and that's going to just lead me into more prayer with that, and probably back into tithing consistently, which is really, and I just thank you.
You're welcome. And it reminds me of a scripture, I think it's right at the end of the Old Testament, and I can't remember what book it's in, but God says, test me on this. It's one of the only areas where He's like, test me on this.
Because He usually doesn't want us to be testing it.
He's like, test me on this. Do it, and you'll see. Right? And you don't ever want to give with the like, all right, God, time to multiply this back into my pocket, right? Like that's not.
I better see more coming in.
That's not the mindset. But I will say, as a little piece of encouragement too, and this happened during the time of this decision. There was a short pre-message at our church about tithe, which we've always consistently tithed. And that's not to take away from anything you said, because we've gone through those seasons, right? Of like, oh, it's pretty tight. Like, what do we do, right? And we've seen it on the other side. So we're like, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
We're doing it no matter what. And she didn't tell me this till after, but my wife said, God told me whatever you said about tithe today, I just needed to trust and say, okay. Wow. And so that was after I told her what I felt like God was telling me, which would have multiplied the amount of tithe we were giving 3 to 4 times, of maybe more than that, which again is really hard when you're seeing negative numbers each month. And again, most people would tell you like, that's dumb. Like you're being dumb.
Well, I mean, I convinced myself it's not good stewarding of the money if I'm just giving it to the credit card company because we have interest, But, But that's what you're saying. It's like that feels dumb, but I have felt kind of yucky. For lack of a better word about it since then.
Yeah, well, and the reason why I say as a word of encouragement is He talks to our wives too. Yeah. And sometimes we need to hear that He's confirming those things in us or reminding us of those things through our wives, right? Which is awesome. Like when she said that, I still think about that today when it's hard to write that check. I'm like, oh no, God made this clear. Like this isn't I start to second guess like, oh, can we change back now? Like how long do we need to do this? Did I hear that right? It's like, no. She said that, which I think for me is the part that I continue to remind myself of, to be like, God wanted this.
Well, and it's really easy to one, convince ourselves that we're right.
Sure.
But two, it's easy to say, well, once I'm a little more comfortable, then I'll tithe. But you never get to the point where you're more comfortable. If you stop, then you're probably never going to start again unless you have like a road to Damascus kind of moment. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I think that's something, obviously I can learn from it. This podcast, as much as anything, is so let me be the first listener of it.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of people can learn from that, is that like it's easy to convince yourself that, well, I'll just start later. And so much of what you've talked about is taking action.
Yeah.
And taking action, especially when you feel God is speaking it into you. And so I think...
And I know we got to wrap up, and I apologize, but
okay.
I wanted to mention this because you talked earlier about the covenant of marriage and that being a reflection of your relationship with God. And I know you guys don't have kids yet, and I hope you're blessed with that if that's the direction you want to go. But having kids has been the biggest reflection to me of God's love toward us. Because when I think about how much I love my kids, whether they love me or not, and when I think about how, especially in the early days, how selfish kids are and they really only care about themselves and they don't care about you, and you wake up every day loving them more than you did the day before. And even in spite of the ways they don't listen to you and the things they do, you don't stop loving them. You actually love them more every day. It was like this glimpse into, oh, that's how God feels about us. So when I think there's no way God could still love me based on the things I've said or the things I've done, he loves me more today than he did yesterday. And in a way that I can't even comprehend, because it says in scripture, like, even wouldn't you do this for your kids? How much more am I going to do that for you? Wow. Right?
Yeah.
And I think about that through the process of decision making. I thought about that this year a lot, of second guessing decisions and being like, God, is this you or should I do this? God isn't going to be upset with you if you make a decision and think that he was asking you to do that, even if it was the wrong one. If my son was like, oh yeah, I did that because I thought you wanted me to do that, I'm not going to be like, you're an idiot. How dare you? It's like, oh no, thanks for trying to, thank you.
Yeah.
Right?
And now let me
help you.
Yeah.
Like, thinking of God in that way, the parental way, has changed my mindset a lot about how heavy I think my mistakes are. Wow. Or how I think I'm going to mess this up. Or if I make the wrong decision, I'm going to derail everything. If my son makes the wrong decision, I'm not going to be like, you're on your own now. Good luck with drug addiction, right? Like all these other things. Like, no, I'm going to be like, don't worry. It's all good, man. Let's go do that. Let's try to do this now. Like here. So I think that for me was just a little kind of nugget at the end where, God's been working on my heart a lot about that this year, of like, stop thinking I'm like ready to put my thumb on you, right? Like it's all good, man. I love you more than you love your kids or even know how to love, right? Which has been encouraging for me too, for sure.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for coming in. This has been better than I could have imagined. I appreciate it, and want to say thank you to everybody listening. And just can't wait to make more of these. And I'll definitely come down and visit your place too.
Yeah, cool, man.
That seemed really cool. So thank you, and God bless you. Stay steadfast.